The PlayStation multi-platform push is here. How deep will that go? Still yet to be unknown, but a video a lot of people are talking about online gives some more information as to kind of what is going on there. We also have some more info on where they make a lot of their money. Battlefield 6 continues to have a phenomenal beta, getting more and more people playing, and somebody spent $32,000 on a game. And this is why these companies have these modes in their games. But before we do get into it, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit the subscribe, share the video, like it, all that great stuff. But for now, let's get into it. So as we know, the multi-platform push from PlayStation has been here for a while. This is the one thing that I guess, even though there's a lot of chat around this at this moment in time, PlayStation has been multi-platform for years now. They've put games onto PC. They've put already games onto Xbox. They've put IPs like Horizon onto the Nintendo Switch. So they've already been multi-platform in one way or another. Same with Xbox, of course, as they are multi-platform at this point. So the push here from those two big companies has been out for a number of years. And the reasoning behind that is what we have already talked about multiple times, where the industry is going with the development costs rising, with the stagnation in console sales and the amount of people that play and they can capture via that route to spend money on games is basically going to be the same every single generation. These companies need to find more ways to make money and more ways to get their games out to more people. Multi-platform is the way. PlayStation, especially from that job posting that popped up a few weeks ago, is going in that direction. But how deep will it go? That is the major question here that a lot of people have. Will they be putting single player games, their big tentpole games, onto consoles like Xbox and maybe the Nintendo Switch 2? Or are they just going to be putting the live service stuff? Now, there's a video that has come out here. A lot of people are talking about it. It's really just shown up on social media in the last day or so. But this is actually a video from a fireside chat that PlayStation had back in June following some other financial stuff that they were talking about. And it is now popping up here. And they gave us far more insights than I think a lot of people knew about in terms of just how many games could be coming over, what games are going to be coming over, and the fact that PlayStation is multi-platform. This came out of their own mouth. As much as some people out there want to deny it, PlayStation is a multi-platform publisher. Here is the video. We will take a listen to it and just discuss some of the things that they do say. So here it is. Let's start it up.
A number of questions I'd like to get to today. I'm going to start with the platform business. As Sony Interactive Entertainment and the industry as a whole move towards multi-platform gaming, how will you protect the value of the PlayStation console?
So the first thing there, he even asked the question, they are moving towards the multi-platform gaming. How do they protect the console?
The PlayStation experience is not just about the gaming console hardware, nor it's not just about the content as well. It's an experience in a community that shares this excitement. For over 30 years in the past, we've been committed to being the best place to play and publish. And this has helped us establish a dedicated community of 124 million players and then invaluable network over the 4,000 creators. PlayStation console experience is designed to enable immediate gameplay in an immersive and accessible way. We're doing this in a completely integrated way, designing and manufacturing all aspects from the chips to the backend system. And we continue to look for new and innovative ways to broaden our reach and bring our content and a service to the players.
So there you have it. I mean, that is one part of it. It continues on here after as well. But that's Hideaki Nishino. Beside him is Herman Hulst. They're talking about the PlayStation business. They're the co-heads there. PlayStation take on different roles to oversee everything happening. But he's mentioning features, he's mentioning the system, he's mentioning the chip, all of those things that differentiate the PlayStation console from other places, which is why people would still want to go ahead and pick up a PlayStation console, even if their games are in other places. It's pretty much exactly similar to things that Phil Spencer said about Xbox and why people would want to get an Xbox, and has to do with the console features. He also mentions there broadening their reach to get more people to play their games, which is exactly what the multi-platform push is to do. Now, it doesn't mention whether that means putting it on Xbox and Nintendo. They already put it on PC, so they could be referring to that, but they're very clear here that PlayStation is moving away from exclusivity in being locking people down to the PlayStation console. So he continues on here.
Value of the PlayStation console is that still the best place to play, and it's growing as reach an even broader audience.
And you're quite right that we're continuously exploring new ways for players to interact with their franchises. It's important to realize that we're really thoughtful about bringing our franchises off console to reach new audiences, and that we're taking a very measured, a very deliberate approach in doing that. Particularly on the single player side, our tentpole titles, there's such a differentiated, the point of differentiation, I should say, for the PlayStation console. They're real showcases of the performance, of the quality of the hardware. So we want to ensure that players get the best experience from these titles. And we're very thoughtful about how and how we bring these titles to other platforms.
So that's Herman Hulse, as we know, who as from Guerrilla took over in terms of the head of the PlayStation Studios. And he is specifically mentioning that they are looking at if, but how as well, they can bring over their tentpole first party PlayStation single player experiences over to the different platforms to get more people to play them. They want to make sure that these games can be played at the same level as they can on the PS5. And they make sure that games, when they do drop onto Xbox or PC or whatever, people are getting that exact same experience so that they can experience what the developers had in mind for them. Now, there's a big difference here, though, because we look at PlayStation, we look at Xbox, we look at all of these companies at this point, and especially with the Xbox console and the PlayStation console, they are basically just PCs under the hood. They are very similar. So you put a game on PS5, it's going to have the same experience on the Xbox once the game does get optimized for it. There isn't going to be a massive difference in the power and in the experience because of the stuff under the hood that is on the Xbox. So that as a reasoning why people should be staying on the PlayStation console doesn't really make sense anymore, at least in my opinion. If you go back to something like the PS3 where they had the cell processor, that was obviously something that was completely different than what was on the Xbox 360. And it took developers a while to get used to the cell processor before they could pull out the entire power of it. I mean, you take a look at The Last of Us when that first dropped on the PS3 at the end of the generation, how good that game looked for a relatively old console at that point. But the difference between Xbox and PlayStation is not really a thing anymore. The Xbox actually has better features, I would say, in terms of a console experience, especially with things like quick resume that PlayStation doesn't have. So you would potentially be getting a better console experience on the Xbox with if you're looking at just the features itself. But he does say if and how they will bring these tentpole franchises. So this has to start making you ask the question, is he referring to games like God of War, The Last of Us, Spider-Man, all of these big games, Ratchet and Clank, will those eventually be dropping on to the Xbox console? From the way that PlayStation now is looking at their business, they are absolutely looking at it from a multi-platform standpoint, and then they will have to evaluate whether it is worth it to drop it on Xbox. And I think at any point with developing these games, when you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars, if you can sell another million or so copies, it is absolutely worth it. So we'll see what happens, regardless as to whether PlayStation does put games like God of War onto the Xbox or not for the next generation. It doesn't really matter, because from everything we are hearing about the next Xbox, that you're going to have access to them via Steam. So that may be another thing. Maybe they're trying to get ahead of that and want to make the money themselves rather than it going through Steam itself and Xbox gamers going through the Steam store, then directly through PlayStation themselves, where they'll get a bigger chunk of the pie. So I think it's coming at some point. It's just, will it be the big tentpole first party single player games? Still a bit skeptical on that part. I think it will absolutely be day one multiplayer live service games. We'll wait and see if we get games like Spider-Man and God of War and The Last of Us in the future. But we are definitely moving more in that direction than we've ever been in the history of games. This video is going around. It is from June. To be completely fair, it's not that that really matters, but a lot of people are talking about what this means for the PlayStation multi-platform push. And when you take a look at PlayStation, just where they make all of their money, they make most of their money on their cross-platform titles, on cross-platform games. They made more money from cross-platform than they did on their physical game sales in Q1 of 2025. It says here, Sony's Q1 2025 financials reveal PlayStation shift from physical game sales to digital revenue through its other software segment, including first-party titles on PC and non-PlayStation platforms. This cross-platform strategy supports community engagement and diversifies revenue beyond the hardware sales. And they made more money from games on other platforms than they actually did on their games on the PlayStation 5 itself. So they say here in Q1 25, which included Death Stranding 2's launch, it made $157 million from physical game sales compared to $175 million from other software. And the discrepancy makes sense considering that PC is almost fully digital at this point, but it's worth considering that other software technically includes the Lego Horizon Adventures games that PlayStation Studios published on the Nintendo Switch. So I'm sure they're looking at this by it making more money and presenting this to shareholders in the future that they can make a ton more money through that segment, that shareholders will want that. It will help increase the stock price and everything. And they're going to find more ways to improve upon that and increase it, which would be putting games on even more platforms than just the PC and the Nintendo Switch with IPs like Horizon, which makes me really think Xbox, Nintendo Switch 2, PlayStation games are coming. It's a multi-platform future. It's good for gamers, and everyone should kind of be celebrating that we're not going to have to be locked to a specific box anymore in the future of the industry. All right, Battlefield 6, the open beta continues to do very, very well. They've actually hit 500,000 plus concurrent players on Steam. So this thing has completely taken off. It passes Call of Duty's all-time high. Specifically, they say here that Battlefield has smashed past the 500,000 concurrent player mark on Steam, surpassing Call of Duty's all-time high of 491,670. So very big here. This game launches October 10th. But as of right now, the beta has been successful. And it's not just people playing it and complaining and being angry that it isn't good. It's people playing it and loving it. So Battlefield 6 is going to have a very strong launch when it does happen. The question now that comes up is, will this beat Call of Duty this year? And I don't think it's as cut and dry as looking at the beta numbers and thinking, okay, they beat the all-time high for Call of Duty, so they're going to definitely outsell Call of Duty Black Ops 7 this year and become the number one FPS for 2025, 2026. The reality is the beta number, especially because it's its own beta, it's free. People could just go download it and play. You have to be able to transfer over all those people to pick up and play the game, buy it on day one, and then stay involved and continuously spend the amount of money that people spend on the likes of Call of Duty every single year. But it will be interesting to see what happens. And it's good that the competition is back here from Battlefield 6. I think it'll be a very fun and engaging first-person shooter couple of months when you look at October with BF6, and then it looks like Call of Duty Black Ops 7 is coming in November. And we're still yet to see the Black Ops 7 beta. We're still yet to see more about that game with like the whole Call of Duty Next announcement, which will be pretty big. And then obviously we're going to get another look at Call of Duty at Gamescom. So it will be interesting to see, but will it be Call of Duty? That is the big question here. I don't think it's as easy as looking at the open beta numbers, as that is just something you can jump into and play for free, but it will translate, I think, decently over to the final game. Finally, somebody spent $32,000 on NBA 2K25. Now, I don't care how adults spend their money, so more power to the person who spent $32,000. But to me, this is just absolutely wild of a story. And people have probably even spent more than this. But it also shows why these sports games front and center put these game modes onto the front page when you do log into them. It says one player has gone viral for spending an astonishing $32,000 in NBA 2K25 in just 5 months on Microtransactions. The clip was posted. He went through it. He showed all of his transactions, and he revealed that he had spent $32,831 on the game. It's actually a wild thing to think that there are probably multiple people here that spend thousands of dollars on these games, on the My Team, on the Ultimate Team. And this is why, if you're a fan of these sports games and you like the single player experience, you like the franchise modes, and you sit back and you think why those game modes don't get major improvements or get the least amount of attention, it's because those don't promote people to spend thousands and thousands of dollars. And I personally think that these game modes here, My Team and Ultimate Team, have ruined the likes of these sports games. If you go back and you play the older ones from the Xbox and the PS2 and the GameCube, just how much more depth some of those games were, and I think had a lot more heart in them. So it's wild to see this, but it makes sense where and why these games continue to promote these modes as much as they do. But I'll end the video there. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Bye.